that help keep the oldest party in check. Today on Pledgewatch, we host one of them, Kidi Mwaga, and of course he'll be taking us through what it is they're doing as youths to ensure that they revive the glory of it. Of course, he'll paint a picture of how the the youth in leadership, of course, are incorporated in the structure of Kanu, and of course, whether they're instrumental towards ensuring that they strengthen the team and revive the glory, like we have rightfully put it. I don't want to call it a lost glory because he would probably feel that it is unfair, but he will tell us indeed whether the glory still shines on and why he chose to be a member of Kanu as opposed to all these other parties that are in existence. Good to have you this evening.
Asante.
Asante na karibu sana. So yes, tell us, why Kanu as a youth?
Thank you, Linda, for hosting me today.
Yeah.
And thank you for the viewers. I would say that looking at our political evolution, especially since we embraced constitutional democracy, that is from independence to date, you look at the parties that have been there, and you look at Kanu, and you realize that all these parties have got no fundamental departure from Kanu.
Right.
It's only that folks are going to those parties in an attempt to find a platform for themselves. And because Kanu is a party that has got a rich history, the history of fight for independence, the history of post-independence struggle, the history of multi-party democracy as people are grappling for multi-party democracy, and all these people would want to run away from Kanu and go to new outfits without history because people do not want accountability. Some of us chose to come to Kanu because we want to, identify with the past that Kanu has, and also say that out of that past, what good was there and what can be made better, and as we go into the future, how can we perfect the story of our governance? Thank you.
Okay, well, we take a look at some parties in other respective African countries, the likes of ANC in South Africa, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, the likes of CCM in Tanzania that actually again was declared as the winning party the other day, and numerous other parties, in different other African countries that have been there, that have carried the country through independence and up until today. They have successfully been able to maintain power and governance, and their structures are really deep-rooted. Would you say that that is what Kanu enjoys, and what really informed its failure? Are we grown democratic to that level as Kenyans, where we could easily say that, you know what, chama cha baba na mama, away with it, let's try and bring in a new outfit?
Well, one thing I would say is that there is no what you call Kanu's failure is not failure per se.
Yes, okay, well,
because parties are put in place to win power, to win elections, and then form government. So that and Kanu has got a rich past, a rich history. So that when Kanu lost power in 2002, it was on account of that there was a party that had got what you'd call superior ideas to what Kanu was offering at the moment, at that point in time. And therefore, Kenyans gave that party, as it were, the mandate to lead them at that point in time. And so for about 17, 18 years, Kanu has been out of power. Yes.
All right. We'll take, for instance, the president. And yes, we understand that from that aspect of single party to multi-partyism, and there was that feel that, the likes of President Uhuru Kenyatta, diehards deep down, are rooted in Kanu. But they still opted to go and sell their manifesto, with a different outfit. They still opted to go and, sell their confidence to the people with a different outfit. But, the argument is evident and clear that there's still some bit of Kanu in the likes of President Uhuru Kenyatta. I mean, why would they decide that? Why not in this particular party that they all resonate to, that most of the Kenyans resonate to?
Yes, I don't know why you say that there is a bit of Kanu in there. I don't know
so
what you mean when there is what
you know what it means. For lack of a better word.
I know is that Kanu is a party of peace, love, and unity.
All right.
But then governance is not a walk in the park. One, you realize that when you talk about Kanu, especially the Kanu of 80s, that was the era of the Cold War. And therefore, a lot of things that happened during that era, you would call them politics of survival. We are coming from the era of, attempted coup.
Yeah.
We are coming out of, during that era there was the push and shove between East and West. And a number of African polities then become, battlegrounds for the ideological difference between East and West.
Right.
And then a number of African countries at that point in time are single party, what we call single party dictatorships.
Yeah.
So that at that point it is only Kanu in power. But then when time was right for us to make our governance better, it must be remembered that President Moi then, acquiesced to the demands of the proponents for political pluralism, that, gentlemen, let's have a multi-party democracy.
Yeah.
His reservations then, I'm told, that were informed by the fact that he feared that multipartyism would have, accelerated tribalism. 30 years later, we are asked that has multipartyism enhanced tribalism, or has it de-escalated it?
Okay.
So that one thing I would say is that another thing that must be remembered about Kanu is that today we are as a government in waiting. We've been there, we've seen mistakes that have been committed by even others who may not necessarily be us, and even by us, and therefore we are at a point when we are ready and willing to bite the bullet, make hard choices, and make sure that we steer this country in the right direction as we get into 2022.
Is that a polite way of telling us that Kanu has a presidential candidate? And who is this presidential candidate that we're looking at?
At the party level, we are still keen on our party chairman, Gideon Moi, running for presidency in 2022. Nothing has changed unless so between now and then, we are also keen on rebuilding the party.
Right.
We've made the necessary investment to make sure that the once giant Cochrane party is growing once again in all the 1450 wards across the Republic. I
think that such was the case also as we were headed to 2017. And a majority of people expected that Gideon Moi will be fronted as the presidential candidate. But so to speak, Kanu decided to endorse President Uhuru Kenyatta. That's why sometimes we feel like, there's a bit of Kanu in the president himself. Why would they choose Uhuru and not any other candidate at that particular time? So the party has been working towards strengthening and, straightening things within for a very long time. Don't you think it's taking a little bit too long?
Not quite. The thing is that we had the option of running for presidency in 2017.
Yes.
However, as it were, it was not politically pragmatic at that point in time to, run for presidency. So at that point in time, we reserved our best energies, for an opportune time. So the party, in its infinite wisdom, at that point in time, decided to support President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election.
Right.
And then afterwards, we've joined the post-election coalition. So that right now, we have got our eyes trained on the prize. Yes.
All right. Well, the baton was passed to Gideon Moi.
Yes.
And we'd want to assume that in the event that Kanu now decides that we're going to front a presidential candidate, then probably they would find it noble to have him as the party candidate, in my assumption. Looking at him as a chair, as the main person of the party, as the figure of the party, in most cases it's crucial to look at individuals and what direction the party is taking.
Yes.
While he's been actively involved in the politics of the day, of late we've seen him take a backseat. And a majority of people argue that sometimes you barely get any interactions that coming from him, even at the level of Senate.
Yes.
That in a way puts his credibility to question as to whether indeed he would stand on ground or stand his ground and take the nation to the next level, were it that he is fronted as the presidential candidate, and there are likelihoods that the people of Kenya would opt to have Kanu again coming on board as the party of the day, or the party that is running government. What do you make of that?
One thing, having been around Senator Gideon and having seen his brand of leadership, I would tell you that he may look calm on the surface, but Senator Gideon has got his fingers in the pulse of the country's politics, so that he understands what needs to be done at any given time.
One then would ask,
his brand of leadership may not be that of abrasiveness, of going to the rallies and shouting at opponents.
Well, we probably would have expected him to go to the basic, places like, for instance, Bomas. Now that we're talking the BBI, and he's also been looked at as a person who supports the BBI, Mashujade, and in most cases we see the face of Nick Salat, as opposed to seeing him, as a person who's coming to represent the party. Don't you think, again, that in a way speaks volumes as to whether indeed he would be instrumental in ensuring that the party policies or the party dreams are taken to the next level?
Senator Gideon has invested in a number of young people within the party, so that you come to the party, then it is not a one-man show. He has made sure that he has strengthened the office of the Secretary General. He has made sure that he has set up a number of directorates within the party that then are able to, discharge some of these mandates. That it does not necessarily have to be there in person. For instance, what Nick Salat said in Bomas is Nick Salat represents the party adequately, so that you won't say that Nick Salat fell short. So that there is no problem with that. But one thing we know is that his brand of leadership is premised on constructive engagement.
Well, unfortunately, history will always be devil, even the people who did not take part in making it and all that. So one would then ask, looking at what played out during his father's time, and something that continues to haunt the DP today, the talk of the YK 92 and all these conversations. Do you suppose then that when you speak of it, when you speak of him empowering the youth and believing in some of them and actually having them running the campaign and all this talk, are we foreseeing a scenario where we're going to have another YK 92?
Well, you see, when you talk about YK 92,
22.
When you talk about the history of YK 92, you are talking about William Ruto. You are talking about people who are not in Kanu. And we are talking about politics of survival of about 30 years ago. Dynamics have changed so much. And you have seen Gideon Moi being a man who has immense love for young people. And constantly giving young people opportunity to, test their abilities and talents and imaginations. And a classical example is just truly here. I could possibly have been in the village taking care of goats, but then, courtesy of his magnanimity of spirit, you can see me here. And you can also, know that we have tried to make small, participation and investments in amplifying the voices of young people in this country. So that I think that when you talk about YK 92, let us, if and when there was anything that went wrong about that point in time, let us first go for individual responsibility. If there are people who are there and we think that there are things that went wrong, let us ask them.
For fear of seeing history repeat itself.
But then at corporate level, I think that Kanu as a party has seen how difficult it is, how hard choices have got to be made in governance, and therefore we have learned to appeal to our better angels than our darker angels. All right. If we're talking about
ensuring that the youths are given a chance to go out there and speak on behalf of the party, and address the party's agendas and all that, in the event that Senator Gideon Moi is elected as president come 2022, are we going to see the same thing? Are we not going to see an active president, and we'll be having his secretary generals, his handmans, being sent here left, right and center for them to do what it is that the president is supposed to do?
Yes, I think that I do not want to talk entirely on how President Gideon Moi would govern this country.
But would indeed be in the interest of the party.
The mere fact that he has been able to hold the party together, that today you hear about Kanu in Migori, and they are not Migori because of a few people who are coming together, but it is because Kanu is in the 40 wards in Migori. So that you go to a ward, for instance, like Wasimbete ward, and you realize that there are 6 officials at that administrative unit. You go to a ward, let's say in Tok, the border of Kenya and Tanzania, and there are Kanu officials there in Kajiado. That is a clear demonstration that he has chosen the leadership approach of doing correct things, but away without seeking to get credit for it. Yes.
Let's be honest with each other.
And today, if you look at even the youth league across these parties, the only party with an active youth league that is constantly engaged in day-to-day in matters of that we're talking about, like the BBI and whatnot, it is kind that is most visible.
It's been in existence for the longest of time, so we'd expect them to have offices across the country. We'd expect them to have party officials across the country. But then the question then would be today, I mean, where is the following? The National Assembly, you go there, how much of representation is there for Kanu? MCAs, how many of them are Kanu MCAs? Going to the Senate, well, Gideon Moi himself is a great... Governors, how many of them are we having that are, Kanu or are elected on a Kanu ticket? And then just that following, how much of bravado or how much of, support does Kanu
truth
enjoy?
Is, I have got the obligation of being candid with you, Linda.
Right.
Truth is, in 2017, the party in supporting the president meant that the tide was favorable to Jubilee candidates than to Kanu candidates, so that we also learned our mistakes, and we learned of things we can make better. Going forward, you realize that between then and today, party reactivation and revitalization has taken place more aggressively. You remember that since 2018, we've been running what is called Jukwaa Talks. And through Jukwaa Talks, by the time Corona was setting in, we had moved to 21 counties across the Republic. In these 21 counties, we have officials from the ward to the sub-branch level to the branch level, which is the county. Which means today, Kanu is actively present in 21 counties. Give us time. By the time we get to June 2021, and by God's grace that there is no Corona, trust me, Kanu is going to be a movement of young people who are going to chart a fresh path for this country. All
right, Kanu, the very same Kanu that you're talking about is the one that subscribed to, the ideologies, not really the ideologies, to the pressure of such a young party as young as Jubilee, was probably 5 years then by the time that you're saying, in this way, that you were coerced to go to this other direction. And there's been so much fear that, from what we see, Pogisio just being nominated the other day, and of course that is courtesy of Jubilee Party. There's been so much fear that we're going to see lots of coalition coming on board, and there are likelihoods that again officially Kanu is going to go hand in hand with the likes of Jubilee as a coalition. What does it speak about this party that many still hold as their key party and would want to see it stand its ground as a party on its own, as opposed to being succumbing to the pressure of what is incorporated in the policies of coalitions?
Pragmatism dictates that you have your head in the sky, but you have your foot on the ground. You remember that since 2002, no single party has formed a government on its own. So that NAC government was a coalition. When we went to the 2007 elections, ODM was a coalition. PNU was a coalition. In 2013, Jubilee was a coalition. Now CORD was a coalition. So that as we go into 2022, political pragmatism may demand that we go into a political coalition. But if and when that happens, and the operational word is if and when, we will go into that coalition as a senior partner. Because we have the numbers, we have the political wherewithal, and we've got the will. Yes.
All right. Well, most of these parties really have dealt Kanu a blow, or so to speak. We speak about the likes of URP that just came from the Rift Valley the other day, and swallowed the confidence that most of the people have in Kanu. The other time, of course, Chama cha Mashinani culminating from the Rift Valley, and we're not trying to paint a picture where it will look like Kanu is a Rift Valley affair. It is not, because we all agree it is not the case. And all these other parties, the likes of ODM actually have they've not been there for the longest of time. In as much as they are within the coalition, they will always come to their start and stand their
ODM
ground.
has been in existence for about 12, 13 years.
But not in comparison to Kanu, which has been in existence for years and years and years. And that's my question. And amid all that, even when they get to that level of a coalition, they will always come out and stand their ground as ODM.
Yes.
Why is it that Kanu is taking a different turn when it comes to this, or a different direction when it comes to this? And what are the likelihoods that it will still stand and hold in the event that they go the coalition way?
When we talk about the post-election coalition that we entered into with Kanu, with Jubilee the other day, is that coalition is about a few months old. Okay. So you cannot talk much about it. What I'm saying is that we have made necessary investments for the 2022 general elections. I am saying that if and when we are going into any coalition, at that point in time,
which is likely to culminate because of the word of mouth that was there, the agreement that was there, that this is likely to culminate to being a coalition that is going to take us to the next direction.
Not quite. The post-election coalition that we signed with the Jubilee,
yes,
is between now and 2022.
All right, yes.
As we get into 2022 general elections, if and when, out of their benevolence of spirit, they choose to support us, the better.
All right.
But then we are not banking on that. We have made necessary investment to, number one, flesh out grassroots support. Number two, make sure that we speak to issues that are pertinent to the people of Kenya. Today, we are talking about access to healthcare. We are talking about employment opportunities. We are talking about housing. We are asking that, have we made the best that we can make out of the situation?
Right.
And I would tell you that we appreciate what the president has done, but we can still always do better, because always we say that a good idea gives way to a better idea. So that as we get into 2022, we are making the necessary investment that if and when we are getting into any coalition, we shall get into that coalition as a senior partner and not play second fiddle to anyone.
Well, we still have the oldest running the show within party. I mean, a diehard, for instance, is Francis Atuoli, Nick Salat. We still have, of course, Bogisio. We have, the senator himself is not as young. Of course, certainly not within the youth bracket and everything. What makes you think that these oldies are going to subscribe to the new ideologies that you will bring on the table? And just what makes Kanu fresh? He is down into it.
Yes.
And these ideologies that they never brought in the first place. So what makes you think that they're going to subscribe to that or succumb to what it is that you're bringing?
The party, when we talk about Kanu fresh, we are not talking about freshness in form. We are talking about freshness in substance.
Okay.
So that first, there are people who have been with us, the people whom you call oldies, like Ndogo Atuoli, SG Salat, or the chairman himself, among others. Truth is, we have struck a unique blend between the two. We are learning from their experience. Their experience includes successes and mistakes. They are telling us that, hey, gentlemen, here we did this and it was such a disastrous mistake. And hey, gentlemen, we did this and it was such a success. So that we are striking a unique balance between political pragmatism or day-to-day political realities and ideological grounding. So that our ideology, our ideals, the higher ideals that we are pursuing as a party, how do you attain those ideals in a political reality where there is political subterfuge, where there are political landmines? How do we navigate these political landmines without losing, without appealing to our darker angels and constantly striving to reach for those higher ideals? So that their presence in the party has been a great asset.
Hold it right there.
Yes.
If someone were to walk into the country today or fly into the country today and probably this person has not been following up on the political events, and then officially they just decide to watch TV and understand some bit of politics, they would doubt if you tell them that Atuoli is a Kanu member. They would probably doubt if you told them that Senator Gideon Moi is, the chair of Kanu. In most cases of late, they've been seen to be fronting more of the interest of Jubilee, or so to speak, the interest of the president, the interest of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. What does it make you feel as the people who are trying to learn from these key leaders?
The truth is that I don't think they are pushing president's agenda in isolation. The truth is that we are in a post-coalition agreement. And in that post-coalition agreement, there are certain decisions that we've made that we are to stand by as a coalition, as a government. And so therefore, when we are pushing for these positions, we are embracing what is called collective responsibility.
Okay.
Sometimes we may appear to be shouting more than the bereaved, but the truth is that we don't believe in sideshows.
Okay.
So that when, for instance, we agreed that BBI is a redemption strategy that this country should pursue, we got into it with our head, with our hearts, and with our everything. Yes. So that it is not about us talking about President's agenda. It is about agendas that we've collectively agreed on, and we've agreed that about this time, let us leave everything else, let us pursue this. Yes, that is how magnanimous we are as a party.
Okay, well, in traversing Mashinani or going to Mashinani and trying to strengthen the party from that level, let's take a look at the strongholds of Kanu, and that's a reality. You find that parties have regions where there are strongholds down there.
Yes.
How has the experience been like, trying to, again, just strengthen the party levels down on these particular strongholds that we're talking about? I mean, Rift Valley, you cannot speak about Kanu and fail to speak Rift Valley. How has it been like? Of some bit of a central or Mount Kenya region had really so much, of course, believe on Kanu, based of course, on the first president and all that. So, and also, I mean, Moi himself having taken the mantle from the first president. How has it been like, knowing very well that we also have leaders that are cropping up from these particular regions?
About strongholds, first, we have attempted to demystify the notion that parties can be regional based.
Okay.
Because when we talk about national unity, we want to build a party for every Kenyan. As such, number one, we've realized that we looked at the 2019 census report. And a keen reading of that report demonstrates that up to 68% of the voting population in 2022 shall be first-time voters.
Yeah.
Kids born between the year 2000 and now. So that, number one, that is going to form Kanu's constituency.
Okay.
Because the issues we are talking about issues like skill set development. Why are we talking about skill set development? Unemployment is one of the menaces that is bedeviling us today. In fact, the World Bank report in 2017 was pointing out that unemployment in Kenya is twice as bad as in Uganda and Rwanda combined. And then our question as a party was, how do we then ensure that we solve this menace? One, we appreciate that the government cannot and would never do everything for us.
Right.
So therefore, the party must invest in what is called private enterprise. So one, we are making sure that we make necessary investment in the education if and when we come as a government in waiting, so that we've got all that figured out. That we make necessary investment in education to make sure that our graduates have got the necessary skills to compete internally and globally because we are in the global economy.
Right.
Number two, we've made sure that we invest in a deliberate skill set development, so that we ensure that even long before people graduate, we have identified what we call laboratories. Laboratories would be, farms and companies and whatnot, and governmental agencies where graduates, young people would be attached to go and learn on-the-job training skills, so that by the time they come out, they either perfect those skills, or so that is having made those investments.
Yeah.
By the time, by the time we come to 2022,
okay,
our constituency shall be young people.
All right.
A young person in Migori, young person in Murang'a, young person in Kuyani, young person in Mombasa, and that is going to form our core constituency.
All right. I'm curious to know who are the people who are coming up with these proposals, and just how much of goodwill is in existence from the oldies or from the people who have been part and parcel of the party for the longest of time to see this implemented, because, well, while they were in power, some of these things were not implemented. It's pretty much unfortunate. Let's first take a short break, and then we come back, allow you to react on the same. Okay.
When it comes to pimple care, Acne's Creamy Wash contains multiple vitamins and removes excessive oil and dirt. Acne's Toner rejuvenates skin. Acne's Sealing Gel fights bacteria. Use Mentholatum Acne's for clear and smooth skin every day.
Mayfair Insurance Company Limited. Our vision is to be distinguished as a reliable and innovative Pan-African financial services leader. Our mission is to provide financial security through reliable and innovative insurance solutions. Our core values are integrity, professionalism, reliability, and respect. Our global credit rating is A+ in financial strength. Our group has operations in Kenya, Zambia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and DR Congo. Our products include construction and engineering, marine cargo hull, domestic package, burglary, contractors all risk, cash in transit, motor private or motor commercial, fire and perils. Mayfair Insurance is trusted by corporates and SMEs across Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa. Mayfair Insurance, you are in safe hands.
A referendum will be held on or before the 6th of June next year. This is according to the BBI report roadmap as President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga meet pro-BBI MPs, but Deputy President William Ruto is opposed to a referendum. Also tonight, Education CS Professor George Magoha insists that learners are safer in schools. The ministry will be meeting this week to discuss on when other learners will resume learning, even as COVID-19 infections continue to rise. Plus, a Kenyan lawyer surrenders to the ICC. Lawyer Paul Gisheru is accused of interfering with witnesses.
Experience the luxurious, airy, and elegant spaces with soothing ambience at Bamboo Loft. We are your home away from home. These creative workspaces are tastefully designed to inspire you to take on your next project. Bamboo Loft is where comfort meets convenience. Its ideal location in the heart of Westlands provides you with quick and easy access to offices and amenities within Westlands and the CBD. Book with us today to reserve your spot.
And welcome back to Pledgewatch. We're still right here with Secretariat Committee on Policy and Legal Affairs, Party of Kanu, that is Kidi Mwaga, who is expounding some more on what exactly is happening within the oldest party of the nation towards ensuring that, one, they restore their glory and they take the country to the next level. It will be hypocritical for me to argue that, yes, we've not seen Kanu trying, and the youth for that matter, Kanu youths trying to traverse the different parts of the countries. And indeed, Kidi Mwaga himself, that is actually what informed, me calling him here this evening. So at least we'd have a conversation on what next for the party and what next for the country. I mean, for many Kenyans who are still desperate on what party to support, sometimes you always say, let me just go back home and focus on that one that I knew right from the word go. But we need to have confidence that indeed you don't just focus that for the sake of doing that, but for the sake of ensuring that we have a better nation tomorrow. So as you traverse the countries as youths and you've brought on board great plans that the party has towards ensuring that indeed the youth have a space somewhere. But we ask and we question the aspect of implementation. We question the aspect of goodwill. We question of the aspect of having our policies coming out of the paper and to the point whereby they're going to be seen, you know, actively helping the people on ground. So just how much do you have confidence that indeed this is going to sail through?
Okay. Well, one, you realize that we are not working in a vacuum. So that we have had, you know, a cooperation between what you call the oldies and the fresh blood. And then we have agreed that one, our primary responsibility is to rebuild our party into the behemoth it was. And you can only do that when you speak to the issues that affect the ordinary people. When people feel represented in government. And as a government in waiting, we are giving people a voice in the party. That is why I tell you that out of the 21 counties that we visited, we have structures right from the ward to the sub-branch, to the branch, and then that also informs some of the leadership structures we have at the national level. Because of the magnanimity of spirit that have been demonstrated, you know, all human engagements are premised on good faith. We don't see why they should, you know, renege on that. But then in the meantime, because we as a government in waiting, we want to make all these proper necessary investments so that when we form government in 2022, and I've said when and not if, because the next government will be a Kanu government. We want to make sure that the young people of this country finally have a government that responds to their issues. Thank you.
All right, just within that, and I think we always have our leaders speaking of how much you want to have the vulnerables in the society being incorporated on leadership positions, you know, have a space on the table. And this is a conversation we've had for the longest of time. It is enshrined within the Constitution, but we still fail to attain that. Two-third gender rule is still a menace in the country. Youth incorporation is still something that we're struggling to ensure that, you know, at least we implement in totality. That aspect of ensuring that the space for persons with disability is still a question today, while we try so hard to push for the same. Within the Kanu setup, do you agree that indeed the youth have been allowed to fly, the youth have been allowed space, there's so much involvement of the youth, and just how much power has been bestowed in your office, for instance?
Well, thank you. One thing, the best thing about Kanu is that Kanu genuinely believes in young people. So that it does not believe in tokenism. Kanu believes in giving young people a platform to, you know, exploit their talent, to exploit their imagination, to exploit, you know, their potential. If you come to Kanu, a number of those departments, I was talking about directorates, are headed by young people. You come to the party communication director, a brilliant young person. Yes, barely in his 20s. You go to other departments, you meet young people. You go to the legal policy and legal affairs team, full of young people, brilliant, fairly, just out of, so the party has believed in young people, it has given them the platform, and they're doing their best to make sure that they serve their country, even in small ways. Yes.
Party democracy.
Party democracy
is one thing that, again, I would say bedevils lots of parties. And you find that, yes, in as much as they say there's that democratic space within the party, we've seen lots of differences culminating from the leadership, from the members of the party. Even at that level of nominations, there's feel like, you know, there's always, you know, some candidates who are favored with the party as opposed to the other and everything. So just how much is this democratic space within Kanu?
Well, one thing I have seen, I've observed and witnessed is that the party has never had strong arm tactics anywhere, because we have had a number of party organs that have dealt with, for instance, disputes. We've had our disputes amicably resolved, and we've constantly, you know, quickly buried a hatchet if and when they are, you know, disagreements, and we've moved together so that in party democracy, I think we are ranked very highly, better than any other party in this country.
So you'd be confident at that point where there could be party nominations and party elections within and all that.
And the best,
a free and fair process?
Definitely, and the best would win.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, let's talk about BBI, because, I mean, we cannot have any conversation today and fail to mention anything BBI. What is the party's position, one, on BBI? Are you in support? If yes, then why? If no, then why?
Well, one, I would say that my party, Kanu, has supported the BBI process from the word go.
Yes.
We supported the handshake, we supported BBI 1, we supported BBI 2, and even now that we have the report from the steering committee, I haven't had any other communication to the contrary, and I would confirm that our support to the BBI process is unconditional.
Your personal position?
Unconditional. My personal position is that my support for the BBI process is also unconditional. Yes.
All right. In this case, then, there are a lot of misconceptions as to what the BBI, presents, as to what the BBI seeks to address.
Yes.
And I'll tell you for free, there are lots of dissenting voices. I mean, by the time you're supporting the BBI, it's because you probably have read the document and you feel like, indeed, this is one document that stands a chance of, making the country better.
Yes.
What are you guys doing, or what is the party doing towards ensuring that you're able to deal with the dissenting voices and to create that space where Kenyans are going to have a healthy debate on that, avoiding the misled information that is around?
Well, one thing, someone once said that a lie will travel half the globe while the truth is still putting on its socks.
Okay.
The BBI process, I would tell you, was a brilliant idea. A brilliant idea. One, the handshake was a brilliant idea because at that point in time, it quickly helped us de-escalate the corrosive political tension that had mounted.
Yeah.
Two, so that in de-escalating that political tension, the country, ordinary folks like you and I, were then able to, continue with their daily lives of making sure that there is food on the table for ourselves and our children. Yeah. There is a roof over our head and whatnot. Secondly, the two principles were agreed on a 9-point agenda. And you realize that when they released that 9-point agenda to the public, general public, no one came out and said that these are not the issues that are bedeviling this country.
Okay.
Everyone was in agreement. So that in the BBI 1, the task force went across the country, all the 47 counties, and collected views of Kenyans. So that when we met in Bomas in November last year, we said this is a good document, but can be made better. And then they again conducted public hearings. And then, views were submitted and we've seen the report.
Right.
The report is way better than the first report, but can still be made better. That is what we are saying. So that if I do not think that this process should be bastardized by people who are bastardizing it. One, people who are opposed to this report have said that it was about creating positions. Forgetting that that is just a small part of the 9-point agendas. BBI is seeking to fight corruption. They are not talking about that, people who are opposed to this report. Okay. So that for me, I would say, and very confidently, that the BBI report is a step in the right direction and must be supported by all Kenyans who think that this country needs to move forward and in the right direction.
Well, step towards the direction, or the right direction, in most cases, just remain as policies. In most cases will always be on paper and the good and beautiful with good English documents. But when it comes to the implementation, is a problem. I mean, we are the same people who speak of a constitution that we have today, a constitution that is celebrated by many across the globe. I mean, when you look at that and the fact that 3/4 of it has not been implemented, I mean, I don't know whether that is to mean
when you say, when you said 3/4 of the constitution has not been implemented, I would tell you that is a poison chalice that is being peddled by political brokers.
Do you feel like it has been implemented?
Wait, who feel left out and therefore are engaging in political posturing to be let in.
But such has been the conversation without.
Let me respond to this. Truth is, for instance, you've had a pure presidential system for the last 8 years.
Yes.
And we've seen how corrosive pure presidential system is because it's winner takes it all. So that, for instance, let's say the president gets 50% plus one vote, right? And let's say in an ideal scenario, the first runner-up gets 49 or 48%, right?
Right.
The structure as it is, it means that the entire 48% of the population is left out of the governance of the country. And we are saying that democracy is not subjugation of the few by the many. So that we have to tweak our governance structure to accord and respect the aspirations of the people.
Okay.
Because it's said that no man is good enough to govern another man without that other man's consent, right? So that when we talk about having the leader of opposition in parliament, checking, conducting his oversight role in parliament, guiding his troop in parliament, funded by the taxpayers' money, in a way, and having his shadow cabinet, in a way it enhances the feeling of that our concerns, our voices, our aspirations are being heard and being implemented.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, well, so with all this negativity that is in existence, which we cannot run away from, then how do we have a conversation? I would have wanted, I would have wished to challenge some of the things that you've said, but then again, time would not allow us, just looking at the aspect of implementation of the 2010 Constitution and whether some of the proposals that are here can easily be, be looked at or, can easily be implemented just by implementing the 2010 Constitution and all that. But then I'll ask this, with all this negativity and dissenting voices, then how do we get to that point where as a nation we're going to have a conversation that is healthy enough to allow us, give the BBI, a look, and most importantly, a chance if indeed the document carries something that is going to help us as a people?
When the president and the prime minister closed ranks and shook hands, we had a golden opportunity to have a meaningful national conversation devoid of this belligerence that I see around. But then what happens? We are told that the deputy president helped the president identify his side of, members of the task force. But then immediately he bolted out and began to bastardize this process. He began calling it names. And we say in African culture, we say that when a hyena wants to eat his children, he first accuses of smelling like goats. Right. BBI is seeking to course correct some of the problems we are dealing with, including our political problems, our political architecture. But then people who stood to benefit from that mess or are benefiting from that mess, therefore bolted out and then sowed a lot of hate and negativity in this debate, and therefore I've been threatening the entire process if and when the deputy president was being genuine. There is nothing that was stopping him from submitting his views to the task force, or now that the team is meeting in Naivasha, or even writing them a mail, submitting his views via mail. But then because he thrives in political grandstanding, he has chosen to threaten everyone else. In this regard, I will reiterate what my party member Ndugatweli said in Bomas. I don't think anyone should be intimidated by anyone. Okay. Because we are all Kenyans equally. And therefore, if they think that they have numbers, and therefore we cannot have an uncontested referendum, let the people decide, as Matiba would say.
All right, peace is what we seek. Peace is what we want. So in as much as we confidently say that hatutatishwa na mtu, it is important that we acknowledge that yes, you might fail to be tissued, but then again, there are Kenyans who are down there, the lives of
Linda, let me say
Kenyans
this.
Are in the
Let me say this. Yeah. I don't think we need to conduct the BBI conversation with this arrogance. Yeah. I really don't think so. So that I honestly plead.
Well, that's what the DP says also and hopes for. He says, kujigonga kifua and...
One thing, I respect the deputy president so much. Yeah. But then it appears, especially to an ordinary person like yours truly here, that the DP speaks from the two sides of his mouth. One, he speaks very nicely and says things that you almost want to agree with him. Yeah. But then you look at, the things he does afterwards, and then you are flabbergasted. And let me demonstrate this. Over the weekend, the president was in Mombasa launching universal health care. Right? But then, if DP was being genuine, in my estimation, I do not have genuinometer, as Kajwang would have said. DP should have joined the president in launching universal health care access. Listen, so that more young people in this country who are without jobs, vulnerable young mothers, are able to access this noble, initiative by the government. But then what was he doing? He was in President's backyard in Nyeri, radicalizing the same youth who should be benefiting from these initiatives.
Why do you want to view this as radicalization as opposed to, a point at where we're going to start a conversation that will be healthy towards the country getting a document that will be helpful?
There is, I believe, in direct diplomacy.
Right.
Because you see, through direct diplomacy, the president and his former nemesis, stand brother, were able to mend close ranks very fast and get so much done within a short time. I don't think if there is anything that stops the deputy from ensuring that he establishes direct diplomacy with the president.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But then you realize that, for instance, the DP previously would let people around him insult the president, but then whenever he rose to speak, he would never correct that is not the position of my position.
Yeah.
So that, therefore, it would be implied that those were his attack dogs. Right?
All right.
So that is my problem with the people around the deputy president and the people around him. That is why we are saying, personally I'm saying, that I wish they were able to come so that we have an uncontested referendum. But if and when they refuse to see the light, right, then I think we'll have to do what we got to do, and that is take it to the people, and trust me, this document will pass with our 70% approval rating.
Kanu Secretary, Ad Hoc Committee on Policy and Legal Affairs, Kiri Mwaga. Well, that position is why you're here with us this evening. And I must say, thank you so much for the great insights and all the best, of course, in the party. I mean, there's nothing that we all seek as a point where, in comparison to a point where we're going to have our youths actively involved in, making decisions right here in the country. Because after all, the future is for the youth. As they had said, or they would rightfully say, the BBI is technically about the youth because they are the leaders of tomorrow. It's got nothing to do with the oldies.
Tomorrow begins today.
Yes.
And thank you so much for hosting me here.
Thank you.
You are always a gracious host. It was nice being with you.
It was nice too. Thank you so much also for keeping us company up until now. Thank you for your feedback. We might not be able to go through them because of time, but all the same, we say asante sana. We look forward to see you again next week. My name is Linda Alela. That's where we get to wind up Pledgewatch sailing.